ethereal friends. I am Pleiades from Akashic Knowledge, and today I am going to be sharing with you my favorite books that have really helped me along my journey in Ascension, that I would recommend to absolutely anybody that is along this path of expanding our consciousness, finding our soul. If you resonate with the content that I create, I have a very strong feeling that you're going to resonate with these 10 books that I have to share with you. Granted, there's so many books that I could name, so many books out there that have changed people's lives all around the place, but these are the 10 that really hold a special place within my heart. There are way too many books out there to put all of them that you can gain from and that can help you along your spiritual path, so I just limited it to 10 books. So if the one that you are thinking of did not make this list, put it in the comment section. Maybe I haven't heard of it. Maybe the people watching this video have not heard of it. So this video can serve as a way for all of us to learn about a whole bunch of books that we didn't already know about. This can be a very beautiful opportunity for us all to learn and grow together. So to get right into it, and by the way, the sequence that I am going to be listing these books is in no particular order whatsoever. The first book is called The Tao of Physics by Fritjof Capra. I really hope that I pronounced that right. This book was really one of the first ones that showed me the parallels between science and spirituality. Science is the study of the physical, study of the matter, and then the spiritual is the study of the spiritual, the metaphysical, the energy aspect to existence. These are the dualistic expressions of existence within our universe. We have matter and we have energy that can be transmutated into one another, and science used to be the exclusive manner with which I perceived reality. So to read this book and really see the parallels, and they use a lot of Eastern philosophy in this book to portray a lot of the spiritual concepts and philosophies out there, to really see how the bridges between science and spirituality, about how these elements of mysticism that I used to think was so out there and so ridiculous actually have scientific backing, especially as you go more into quantum physics. The more deep you get into science, and the smaller and smaller and smaller into the subatomic world, into the quantum world that you get, you start to see these elements that are described in so many ancient Eastern philosophies. So this book really had a place in my heart, because I would read it over and over, and I would just think about how mind-blowing it is that there's a potential for this whole spiritual aspect to reality. The second book that I'm going to name is called Cosmos by Carl Sagan. I'm sure a lot of you have heard this book. It's a very, very beautiful book that is accompanied by a very, very beautiful documentary TV series, which is made in the 80s, but however it was redone in 2016, I want to say, by Neil deGrasse Tyson, and each chapter of the book correlates to an episode of the TV series. If you have not seen this TV series or read this book, I highly recommend the TV series, and you read the book while you are watching the TV series. As you watch one episode, read that chapter correlating to it. It is a very, very, very beautiful experience. This book absolutely expanded my consciousness into the expansiveness that truly is our universe. Really showed me that we are these tiny specks within the entire big picture of existence. I didn't really take this as a belittling thing, a belittling perspective. I actually saw this as a very empowering, a very humbling experience, that we are a part of something so much greater. The cosmos is so far beyond the realm of our imagination to comprehend the full scale of it, and we are a part of it. The cosmos is a part of us, and we are a part of the cosmos. We are made of stardust. Stars explode and create the matter that constitutes our physical vessel. These things were absolutely empowering to me, and still are to this day. They are very, very powerful concepts that really cement the idea that we are existence, and existence itself is this being of absolute beauty. I don't know how else to say it. And the documentary series going along with this book is so beautifully illustrative of the poetic manner in which Carl Sagan describes our physical universe. It is absolutely awe-inspiring. It is so beautiful to see all of this in a documentary film. So I highly recommend you watch that film. You can watch it for free on YouTube. I'm going to put the link to this TV series in the description alongside with the Amazon link to get the book, along with all of the other links to get all the other books that I'm going to name. So next up on the list is The Journeys Astral Projection Trilogy by Robert A. Monroe. This is technically 3 books, but they kind of all go along with each other. It's like one long book when you really look at it. The first book is Journeys Out of Body, the second book is Far Journeys, and the third book is Ultimate Journey. These describe in depth Robert Monroe's personal first-hand experiences going out of his body. At the time that Robert Monroe was having these out-of-body experiences, when he would mention them to people, he would either be called crazy or evil, because it was so not in the popular consciousness at this time, and he was completely figuring it all out on his own. He would just be going to sleep at night and just be hit with sleep paralysis, and then he'd be shocked out of his body. He wouldn't consciously do it at first. It would just happen to him. He would spontaneously astral project. He had absolutely no idea what was happening. The doctors had no idea what was happening. No one in his life had any idea, so he kind of just like went with it and documented his experiences in the journal entries that are in these books. And he kind of figured out how to master astral projection. He talks about every method that he has used to astral project, his experiences astral projecting, his interpretation of these experiences, how you can astral project. He talks about the possibilities of entities and events that you can witness, the different realms of the astral planes. It goes on. He absolutely everything about astral projecting, I feel like he covers in these books, and he over a span of so many years collected these experiences, which he then formulated into a manner that absolutely anyone can astral project following his advice. For anyone who is really dipping their feet into the water of astral projecting, or people who already astral project but they want to learn more about it and more about their capabilities in these out-of-body states, highly recommend the Journeys Out of Body series by Robert Monroe. Number 4 on the list is going to be The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. I'm sure you expected this one coming. This book is absolutely divine wisdom, absolutely divinely channeled source consciousness from our beloved friend Eckhart Tolle, a very beautiful spiritual teacher who very much emphasizes the power of the now, the moment right now. That's all that exists. He goes in depth in this on how to be grounded in the present moment. Eckhart Tolle goes very much in depth on the whole philosophy of why the moment right now is all that exists, and how when you start to tune into this very moment, your quality of existence is increased tenfold. He has an absolutely beautiful presence to him. His energy is so pure. He's such a pure vessel for expressing these concepts. The audiobook is actually spoken by Eckhart Tolle, so you can hear the pureness in his voice while you read along with the book, or you just listen to it in the audiobook, and you can just feel his energy when you're reading the pages. He's got a divine presence to him, and the wisdom that he puts in this book is absolutely life-changing. But this book goes so much more into so many different things than just being in a moment. He talks about time, how it's an illusion, how you can escape the illusion of time. He talks about how your ego is not who you are not your mind, you are not your body. He talks about the infinite consciousness, how to access this infinite consciousness, how to be in your true natural state of being, the emotional body. He talks about so many incredible concepts that will absolutely blow your shit. It's very beautiful Eastern philosophy mixed with his own wording of it in a way that is so digestible and resonates so much with me personally. Every single time I read his books or every single time that I listen to him talk, he has such an elegant way of expressing things that is so gentle and so easy to understand. So I highly, highly, highly recommend this book. Next up on the list is another book that has changed my life so drastically, and this book is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. This book is essentially, you can think of it as the law of attraction step by step, with the focus on attracting monetary equivalent of energy, money. Attracting money is the main focus of this book, but he very much makes it clear that if you follow the 13 principles of this book, you will be able to manifest absolutely anything into your life. Every time that he says the word money or currency in this book, you can substitute that for whatever it is you want, and you will manifest it if you follow and apply the principles of this book. I have just recently come across this book about a couple months ago, and let me tell you, the perspective that I have gained about gaining an income off of what I love is absolutely changed. When you see that our consciousness is a magnet for like vibrations, and you can attract the vibrations of currency by thinking and feeling and acting in alignment with this frequency of money, it changes your perspective on how to become financially free. Absolutely any person with a mind can manifest the money that they desire. All it takes is thoughts. It begins with your thoughts, a definite purpose, figuring out what your purpose is, what your desire is, and having that burning passion and desire to achieve it, planning it, getting a mastermind group of people, accessing specialized knowledge and channeling it into a plan which you then take action from. And this is basically the formula that he describes for how to accumulate money or absolutely anything that it is that you desire. It's so powerful. It's absolutely practical, the way that he describes these spiritual aspects. He puts all of the information that he's gathered from studying over decades of the most wealthy and successful people in American history, from Andrew Carnegie to Thomas Edison, and he puts that knowledge in a way that's just so digestible as well. Like, I just absolutely love authors who are able to put this information in a way that is so easy to understand. You don't have to have some crazy intellectual level and understand the English language so well to understand what he's saying. It's very well encapsulated in his text and in his words in the way that he puts things. So this book is absolutely powerful. Promise it will change your fucking life if you actually apply the principles. He emphasizes, and I will emphasize as well, that if you read this book and you don't do anything with the knowledge, then why'd you even read it? But if you read this book and you apply the simple principles, the very simple principles, one of the principles, the most core principles, is writing down all of the things that you want and what you're going to give in return for what you want and things like this on a piece of paper, and repeating it to yourself before you go to sleep and right after you wake up. Something that simple can reprogram your subconscious mind and absolutely change your life and attract the income that you want. If you follow every single step like this in the book, your financial status will never be the same again, I promise you. So, moving on, this next book is called The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. I don't normally read storybooks. In fact, this was probably one of like 5 storybooks that I've ever read in my life. But it was absolutely awe-inspiring, absolutely captivating, and it isn't just a story for entertainment. The messages of this book, the themes of this book are absolutely gold. They have such golden nuggets of wisdom within this book, and it's in a way that you just read the book and you're entertained, and you're just following the story of this boy in the book who has a prophetic dream about going to the pyramids of Giza, and he's a poor kid. He has no idea how he's going to go there, but he uses his money to get there. He has this whole journey of ups and downs, and then at the end of it, when he does get to the pyramids, he does not find what he expects. But along the way, he found love, he found the secrets of alchemy, he found how to follow his heart and listen to what his heart is speaking to him, and so much more. And it's just such a beautiful illustration of how it's all about the journey, it's not about the destination. When he figures out that what he was looking for is not what he was expecting, he was laughing and filled with joy, because it's all about the journey, and he enjoyed his journey. There's so many gold nuggets of wisdom like this throughout the book that just kept me wanting to keep on reading. You know, when you just read a good book and you just don't want to put it down, this is one of those books. You're going to absolutely fall in love with the story, and it is just so well descriptive, very informative, very subtle with the messages that he is relaying, and it's just so enjoyable. So check out The Alchemist. They also have a free audiobook on YouTube for this. I will put it in the description with the Amazon link. So this next very short book is called The Kybalion by Three Initiates. The Three Initiates remain anonymous because they are basically initiates of the Hermetic philosophy. These are people who have inherited the wisdom of the Hermetic principles, which by definition, Hermetic means secret, essentially. It is also a derivative of Hermes Trismegistus, Hermes the thrice-born, who was the original constructors of these philosophies. I will get more into him in the next book. This short book of about 150 pages, I believe, is absolutely potent with very beautiful knowledge about the true nature of our existence. It basically goes very in depth about the 7 Hermetic principles of existence. Our reality is governed by these laws of existence that we call the Hermetic principle. The manner in which they describe these principles is also very digestible, very, very easy to read, and at the same time very immense in the implications of the text. They also talk about their definition of God, basically what God is, how God is this infinite living mind. It is not some religious entity, it is not some being that resembles humans in any way. It is basically this infinite living mind, just like the mind and our consciousness that we manifest things with, but it is infinite in vibration. So we are basically manifestations of a mind just like ours that is infinite and doesn't have limitations. We are subjective, individualized perspectives of this infinite living mind, and we possess the potential of this infinite living mind, meaning that we can manifest our reality in the same way that we were created, that the stars and the planets and the galaxies and the nebulas were created. We are existence, once again being cemented in the philosophies of this book. There is so much more potent wisdom that I can go over about this book, but it's really just a rabbit hole. It's a very short book, but very profound knowledge, so I highly, highly, highly recommend this book. It will change your view of how we exist in this reality and how to essentially master the laws of existence and live your life in accordance with exactly how you want to live it. So the next book, we're getting really down the rabbit hole with this one and the ones to come, and that is the 7 Emerald Tablets of Thoth. This book is written by Thoth. He is the priest king of Atlantis, who upon his 3rd incarnation was known to the Greeks as Hermes Trismegistus, which, as I mentioned prior, was Hermes the thrice-born because it is his 3rd incarnation. However, he was an ascended master. He can come into this plane and out of this plane at his will. He transcended death and was able to leave this plane whenever he pleases because he gained access through the higher beings of the halls of Amenti. He was a very, very dedicated student of the universe, and he eventually was given access to immortality. Whether you believe this or not, you cannot deny the absolutely profound wisdom within this book. He talks about how he was the one who actually built the pyramids. He manifested them from a higher realm of existence and brought them down in density, and that is why they were built from the top down. He built these pyramids because he, being an ascended master, lived a pretty long time, and he was ruling Atlantis, basically serving as a leader in the Atlantean colony. And then when the sinking of Atlantis came, he brought an amount of people and the teachings of Atlantis into Egypt, ancient Egypt at the time, and he built these pyramids to house his wisdom, to house the knowledge and the legacy of Atlantis. It is all within the pyramids, but he made it in a way that only the absolutely initiated, the absolutely ready individuals will gain access to this information. The means of which you can gain access into these pyramids are depicted in depth within the Emerald Tablets. The Egyptians were very primitive in comparison to the Atlanteans, and then when the Atlanteans came into the Egyptian colonies, they basically showed them the ways of Atlantis, and this is how ancient Egypt became as advanced as we now see the history today. Many more mysteries are explained throughout this book. These tablets themselves, by the way, why they're called the Emerald Tablets is because they were literally carved on emerald tablets, these greenish tablets, which are completely imperishable. These tablets exist physically today, and they are created by means of alchemical transmutation, meaning they were a perfect state of matter that cannot be perished. This is how Thoth embedded his wisdom in this plane before he left. When the elder gods basically called him for a higher purpose, he left this physical plane consciously. He knows that we need guidance to get back to where Atlantis was once upon a time, so that's why he left us with the information encoded within these Emerald Tablets. He's an absolutely incredible teacher, absolutely mind-blowing information within these tablets. It's just incredible. It's really just incredible. I really recommend you read these with an open mind. This book is really for the person who is really diving down that fucking rabbit hole, man. Because a lot of the things that are spoken of in this book are very hard to wrap our little human minds around. It's really crazy what times used to be like before this state that humanity finds ourselves in. Going even further down the rabbit hole now, we have the Law of One series, the raw material. These books are channeled information from a being that calls itself Ra. It is a collective consciousness of 6 density beings who basically have evolved to the point that they are one. The human channel for this energy is Carla Rueckert. I want to say her name is pronounced. Secretary of the situation, typing it all out, was James Allen McCarty, and the questions that were asked in this question-answer format were proposed by a man named Don Elkins. Don Elkins is no stranger to these deep philosophical questions about the existential nature of our existence and trying to contact these extraterrestrials. The whole way that they were able to contact this extraterrestrial higher dimensional being was by experimenting and attempting to reach higher dimensional beings. They were trying to make contact with aliens, and they did in a higher density realm of existence, and they channeled the ancient being, civilization / collective consciousness known as Ra. They call themselves Ra. This being played a huge part in ancient Egypt, and basically they made their appearance to the Egyptians. They are sculpted in Egypt. That is why we hear about Ra, the god of Ra, from ancient Egyptian cultures, because Ra basically made an appearance to the Egyptians to help out in the Ascension, but the Egyptian priests kind of perverted the knowledge, diluted it, and really changed it into a way that can enslave people, kind of like all the religions do. So Ra hasn't really come in contact with humanity since then, since many thousands of years, and then this situation happened where a pure channel for this information came across, and Ra didn't want to overwhelm us. As much as this information may seem overwhelming to a lot of people, they were answers to questions proposed by a human being, Don Elkins. Ra wanted to only answer questions because he didn't want to overwhelm us with information that humanity was not ready for. So basically, if humanity, which was being represented by this man, Don Elkins, asked a question, Ra would give him the answer to anything. There are 5 books in this series. These channelings happen from a period of many years because the energy would be channeled word for word through Carla, and she would say it word for word, and it would be a very slow process because they wanted to make sure that the enunciation of everything that was being communicated was absolutely on point. They didn't want to misconstrue any messages, so it was a very slow process. Over the course of many years, they constructed a series of 5 books of the Law of One. It is currently a series of 5 books depicting in depth every single encounter with this being. I think there was a total of like 100 and something sessions, 100 and something channeling sessions with this being. So there is so much knowledge about the origination of humanity, the future of humanity, where humanity came from, why we're here, who is Ra, who is aliens, what do aliens do, what, like, so much everything, like, just about everything that a human can want the answer to is in this series. I personally am just now getting into the series. I'm only on the first book and I just started it, but I know a lot about a book from a man named David Wilcock. If you are trying to get into the wisdom of the Law of One, but you're not trying to read the entire 5 books, which I recommend you read the entire 5 books because it's worth it, but if you're for some reason in a situation where you can't do that or you're not going to do that, I highly recommend you look into the teachings of David Wilcock. He absolutely based almost all of his intellectual career off of the Law of One raw material, so you can learn so much by listening to him speak. He has PowerPoints where he does synopsises of the entire content of the Law of One. It is absolutely life-changing, the perspective that you gain about humanity and our purpose and role in things. This series is probably the greatest collection of knowledge about the true nature and the true origination of humanity that has ever been collected. Needless to say, I recommend this book. All of them, all 5 of them. And if you do not read the books, I recommend that you check out David Wilcock. He is going to be in the description right by the Law of One link, and I highly recommend you check out the video that I'm going to put there because he has some very potent knowledge that will spark intellectual orgasms within your mind. The last book on the list is a book that holds a special place in my heart, a very special place. And this book is called Be Here Now by Baba Ram Dass. This book is so beautiful. It is made in a way that is more like art than text. The absolutely beautiful, awe-inspiring visual artwork is complemented only by the profound wisdom that is being described in this book. Ram Dass was a psychologist. He went through the whole typical system, got a lot of money doing psychology, and then he stumbled across psychedelic drugs. This expanded his consciousness into the true nature, and he saw everything beyond his ego, and he got a glimpse of divinity. And every time that he would have a psychedelic experience, he would get that glimpse of divinity. So he would just be like, oh, if I take more psychedelics, I'm going to get more glimpses of divinity, and maybe I'll actually jump into divinity by taking more psychedelic drugs. So that's what he did. He actually had an experiment where I think he spent like a week or like weeks on LSD, never coming down. He was just drinking it out of the bottle at the end of it because his tolerance was so high. And then he came to realize that no matter how many psychedelics you experience, you are always going to come back down. The wisdom that you get from these psychedelics, if you do not apply it, will not change your life. You can't just take a bunch of drugs and expect yourself to reach the gates of heaven, so to speak. So he went on a soul journey into India where he found his guru, Maharaji. Maharaji is an incredible guru, prophet who is just pure love. He is pure love. He has psychic abilities. He's absolutely gifted from birth. He spent a lot of his life living in the woods, and then when people from civilization found his abilities, they basically made him into like some king of sorts. They kiss his feet, they feed him grapes, You know, he's treated like a god in a sense, but he heals people. He shows people the path to liberation. He's basically a Buddha. So Ram Dass learned from Maharaji. He studied him. He spent much time in India with him, and then eventually at one point Maharaji decided that Baba Ram Dass was going to be the individual who was going to spread his teachings to America. So that's what Ram Dass became. He became a channel, a messenger of Maharaji's pure consciousness teachings, the pure path to liberation and sustainable happiness within this incarnation. He talks about a whole bunch of Indian philosophy, a whole bunch of Hindu, Buddhism, all of these things, but he also just puts his own twist on it in a way that is just so beautiful, so absolutely awe-inspiring to read and look at the imagery of this book. One page of this book is something that I could spend an entire day digesting, reading it over and over. It's kind of like a Zen koan, the way that he phrases things. It is hard to understand at first, some of the things, but when you meditate upon them, when you constantly refer back to them and digest these things, they come into your being and you experience this overwhelming sense of remembrance, and you realize what he's trying to say, and the profound nature of everything that is almost encoded in the information in this book is so tasty for my soul, and it is such incredible knowledge that you can bring with you in all facets of life. How to enjoy this life, essentially. How to transcend the ego, transcend your past incarnations, transcend this plane, and ascend into a divine kingdom that we can call fourth density. We are remembering what our soul already knows when we are learning wisdom like this. It is an absolutely divine process of undoing the divine amnesia that is bestowed upon us when we begin this incarnation. So when we read these books with pure, conscious, beautiful meaning within every single fucking word, it awakens our true nature. Reading books like this is going to bring you into more alignment with your soul, and you're going to remember what your ego has forgotten upon incarnating in this life. So read these books. I highly suggest it. I'll put all of the books that have an audio book, I'll put it there so it's more convenient. Maybe you're in the car, you can listen to it. You're at work, if you're allowed to have headphones. You're just walking around, you want to listen to it. It's very convenient to listen to the audio books. Either way, I highly recommend that you ingest the wisdom of these books that I have described, because they will absolutely assist you so tremendously in becoming your true highest version. And with that, thank you so much for watching this video, and thank you so much for all of you in advance for sharing the books that you have to share in the comment section. And I hope you have an absolutely divine, blessed day, my ethereal, infinite being of light.